What's good, y'all? My name is Rorvis Paradox, aka Docs Brando. I'd like to welcome you all to another installment of Rorvis Reviews. We got a good one, in my opinion, for you right now. We got the Modern Godzilla episode, and I'll kind of be going into what I mean by that very shortly. Make sure you guys are helping me reach the goal 500 subscribers. We're so close. I mean, we got a long way, but we're close. I feel it in our spirit. But if you guys can help me by, liking, commenting, sharing with folks. If you see me post about it on IG at DocsBrando25, make sure you're, putting on your story, spread the news because the more people we get in to join the Doxaholics, the better content I can provide. Um, with all that being said, let's get into it. Now, if you didn't know by just looking at the thumbnail, I am a huge Godzilla fan. I've been watching Godzilla movies since I was a kid. I remember seeing the tapes that my dad had. I remember seeing different classics like Godzilla versus Space Godzilla, Godzilla versus Destroyer, Godzilla versus King Ghidorah, Godzilla versus Mecha Godzilla, all these other great films, as well as I have gotten a chance to read some Godzilla comics as an adult. So it just increased my love for the fandom. And Godzilla is just an interesting character, interesting creature, because it was literally created by Japan by accident because of experiments, and because of that, they caused their own destruction. And I think a lot of there's a lot of things you could take away from that like that, just that innovation in cinema. And we're talking about one of the longest reigning like franchises ever. Like, I think the first movie came out 1950 or 60, if I'm not mistaken. Like, this franchise has been going on for a very long time, and I think it's you could tell how much people love it and how much is in just the character alone, as well as like the different themes to the different films that keep it having this incredible longevity. Um, and when speaking about Godzilla, I would like to talk about some of my favorite kaiju's in the Godzilla verse. Uh, Most notably King Ghidorah, his arch rival. Anytime they see each other, it's on sight. They're scrapping. It's not just like any other kaiju that pops up and they're fighting. Nah, these two have real beef, and it's always great seeing them fighting, whether it's on film, whether it's in animated, whether it's in comics. It's always interesting seeing the two go toe to toe. The next one I want to talk about is Destroyer. Destroyer is such an interesting creature because it's made from the same thing that they try to use to destroy him, the Oxygen Destroyer. So thus the name Destroyer. And just the whole movie, like, it really feels like some horror movie type shit with the whole Destroyer film, and then the way he's causing Godzilla to get sick, and just it's a whole bunch going on. And just Destroyer just looks mad wicked. He looks demonic, to be honest, but always been one of my favorites, and he has cool different forms as well, so it's hard not to love him. But I have to say, without a doubt, regardless if these are my two favorite, not Godzilla, Godzilla's always gonna reign supreme, because there's a reason he's earned the title King of Monsters. Anybody want to see him, they can see him, and he's gonna make sure you know whose place you're in. This is his world. It ain't not just Japan, I'm talking about the whole world. You come to this planet, you will get got. And it's very simple, and it's hard not to love the premise of Godzilla in that fact. So with all of this, intro into Godzilla and my love for him, it's time for me to get into the first film I want to talk about of the modern Godzilla. And what I mean by modern Godzilla is just, a lot of Godzillas either come from like the early, like, my favorite Godzillas come from like early 1990s, early 2000s. Um, but I'm talking about, you know, the legendary franchise, as well as, you know, Toho trying to come back. I'll get into details, you know, further into the video. Now, the first film I want to talk about is 2023's Godzilla Minus One, directed by Takashi Yamazaki. Um, I'm not gonna lie to you, this may be one of my favorite Godzilla movies of all time. I think this film was just so masterfully crafted, and what this film does that the legendary Godzilla verse hasn't been able to do is make the human characters matter to the film. I feel like what's always been great about Godzilla films of the past is either what's going on with the kaiju completely overshadows what is going on with the humans, and you know the humans characters are does do just enough to not ruin the film. But in the case of the legendary monsterverse, the human characters really could take away from the film. You know, the first Godzilla movie, you know, human characters are pretty good, not gonna lie, but not enough kaiju's, not enough Godzilla, you know, and it's kind of dark, so it's not really great to watch. Then you get into Godzilla King of the Monsters, and kaiju stuff, absolutely phenomenal, greatness. But then you get the human characters, and it just falls flat, and it's kind of this cycle. But here, the human characters matter so much, and it's their stories that really make the film. Because as much as it is a Godzilla film, it's really like a film about trauma, a film overcoming, you know, survivor's guilt, and you know, feeling like, you know, you don't deserve to live, things of that nature. Like, it's a really deep and depressing film at times, but I think it's just so fucking great. um the film starts off with our main character Kochi, and he is a this is in 1945, so he's a kamikaze pilot, but he comes down to an island where they repair the planes, and says, you know, hey, my something's going on with my plane, can you fix it, yada yada. So he's sitting out by the water, and the engineer checks it out, and he's like, there's nothing wrong with this plane. So he feels like Kochi is running away from his duty. But as he's staying the night there, we get to see the first look of Godzilla, and this Godzilla is more like a base form. Like, this isn't nuclear Godzilla, it's a little bit smaller in scale, not still towering over them tremendously, absolutely, and still wreaking havoc, but it kind of is like he's still threatening and terrifying, but it's not the same. And this is in like the first 15 minutes we see this Godzilla, and it's insane what this Godzilla is doing to these soldiers. He's not even eating them. That's the crazy part. Godzilla is not eating these humans. He's really just he's picking up some of them by their mouth, with his mouth, and just launching them through the air. And you already know when they're coming down, they're done. Everything shattered, bleeding out, all that insane mayhem. And there's a moment before the chaos ensues that the head engineer tells Kochi to get into his plane and shoot at him. And Kochi gets into the plane, and he's thinking about it, but he's just like utterly terrified to pull the trigger. And then Godzilla sees him, and he just jumps out of the plane right in time and just like gets away, because it's havoc from there. And then the other men start shooting at Godzilla, and that's how you wind up with only Kochi and the head engineer surviving. And the head engineer truly, he's really blaming him for it, because he just lost all these people he was close with. These men had families, children, and they're never going to see them again because of this coward who should have been dead, didn't do his job. So now Kochi goes back to his where he lives in Japan, where his family's from, but because of the bombings, he finds out that his parents are dead, sadly. And the neighbor also blames him because weren't she knew he was a kamikaze pilot, but now she's blaming him because of he didn't do his due diligence. Her family is also dead, and she lost a child. So like a mother losing her child, you already know there's gonna be a lot of vendetta towards him. Um, then he ends up meeting um a person while he just kind of just like wandering the market, and this is where he meets Noriko and the baby Akiko. And Noriko was on the run for stealing food for her and the baby, and she kind of just hands the baby to him for he can for she can like take off and scurry make the escape. And he kind of just waiting there in the market for her to come back, and she just never comes back. So now he's like, well, damn. She starts to walk off, and she's like, why didn't you just leave the baby? He's like, what kind of fucking monster do you think I am? What's your problem? What are you talking about? So they do introductions, and she stays there at his place because they have nowhere else to go, and that's when she tells her Noriko's family is dead, and Akiko's family, the baby's dead. Akiko's birth mother last wish was for her to take care of her baby in her stead. So now we have this makeshift family that gets together, and for the next 2 years they just growing, trying to get things together. Koshi gets himself a job taking care of mines in the ocean, yada yada, all that type of stuff. And in this passing of time, this is where the U.S. is doing their nuclear tests, and because of their negligence and not knowing what's in the area, Godzilla mutates and gets a mighty terrifying evolution. So now Godzilla is going to be running rampant in this film, and you're more inclined to know what's going to happen. But that's really all I want to say about the film. I think I laid it out pretty well without even introducing some other characters that are very important to the film, but you just gonna have to see for yourself. But I will speak on the performances for those actors. But to get into highlights, like I said, I must talk about the cast. Um, Runosuke Kamiki as Kochi Shiga Kimishi, the former kamikaze pilot. He really sold this role. He really put his entire, everything he could into this role. It really felt genuine with his depression, with his PTSD, his survivor's guilt. Everything is just like all the ghosts of like his past are haunting him, and he's just a man trying to do the best he can for these people. And he just, at times he feels like he should have died there, but it's like, why was it him? Why did the coward survive the onslaught with Godzilla the first time around? Now he has to deal with Godzilla again. So it's like every time Godzilla comes back, it's like he's mocking him, he's tormenting him. So I think just seeing this actor's portrayal of Kochi, it was, I tip my hat to him. I feel like, just deserve award nomination for this performance. My name is Hababi, as Noriko, was excellent. You tell that she's a person that, over the years, as she's being around Kochi, she starts to fall in love and really sees themselves as a family, but he won't take the next step because he over here fighting his own demons, struggling, and doesn't want to get too attached to people because he feels like he doesn't deserve to live a normal life. He took husbands away from families, and he feel like it'll be wrong for him to be a family man without paying for his sins, basically. And then there's some other characters, but they all do other actors and actresses that do very well within this film. But those are, I don't want to speak too much of them because I think you'll get to just see all of them play out. Just the chemistry of the whole cast really works well. It's just they are able to build upon each other, whether it's for very emotional scenes or for like slight humor in certain areas. They're able to like really pick up on each other, and it's just excellent to watch play out. One of the biggest things that I must speak on is the visual effects. You really do feel like Godzilla is stomping around, and if you have surround sounds in your house, it makes you want to look outside your house and make sure there's not kaiju there. Insane look and design for this Godzilla as well. Looks very much so terrifying, very organic. It's just chef's kiss. The everything about him is just perfect. And then the destruction that he causes is excellent as well. Really looks like the whole town is getting destroyed, and just like you just look in awe about how it's being caused. Um, there's a reason why I'm going to there's credibility from me talking so highly of this the visual effects. It won at the Oscars for best visual effects, so I don't have to say much more. They knew, especially for this time for Godzilla film to get that type of honor. You already know that it's legit. I think the score as well was magnificent, and I think one of the final moments where it just kind of just went dead silent. It was one, like, even though it's not really part of the score, it's part of that production where it was just like it really amped up the scene, and my jaw was dropped for a good 10 to 15 minutes wondering what was going to happen. But again, the score is tremendous. The roar for Godzilla is it's unique. It's a little bit of old, but it's still able to. They flipped it to create its own roar, and definitely feel the dominating presence, the aura from this version of Godzilla. Um, all in all, I'm gonna give this film 5 stars. I truly enjoyed this film. I kind of want to run it back. I'm probably am going to run it back, but there's many more movies I should be looking into. But this is definitely one of my favorites. I'll probably say like top two, top three Godzilla films of all time. In my opinion, to me personally, it's just like it checks all the boxes for me. Um, on to the next film. Now, the last film we're going to be talking about is a film from this year, 2024's Godzilla Kong, the New Empire, directed by Adam Wingard. Um, I know what I said about the legendary Godzilla films, Godzilla MonsterVerse, um, in the last section of the videos. But I'm not gonna lie to you. I really enjoyed this movie. This is the best out of all the legendary Godzilla films. I think what makes this film so fun and so great is that, like I said earlier, the kaiju stuff really overshadows most of what the humans are doing. There's like minimum ways to have the humans like kind of fuck up the vibe for the most part. But at the same time, the human characters have certain points in the film that are important to the plot to keep going, and the way that they build the lore around um, these native groups and how they're important to Kong, as well as the other kaiju's, is done very well. I think it's not like a perfect blend. It's definitely like at least 75 kaiju, 25% human, but it works in this film. And I think the visual. Oh, I'll get into the highlights, but that'll be in the highlights. But that's near here. Let me get started to talk about the film. So it's been in universe. It's been 3 years since Godzilla and Kong first scrapped. Kong is king of the Hollow Earth, while Godzilla roams, the top layer, and they stay away from each other, stay away from their territories, and everything is peaceful, copacetic. Kong, finds ways to hunt, tries to entertain, but Kong's people, these types of his type, his breed, they're very personal. Like they need more of them. They're not they're not supposed to be isolated. They're very social creatures. So he's been looking for his kind down there, just always looking and looking, and he's been very depressed about it and still trying to figure out what's next. And this is where he ends up going to a certain area in Hollow Earth and gets jumped by some different apes. And these apes look, besides little homie that's like the little star of the show, Suko, all these other apes look raggedy as hell, beat up, scarred, fur mangled. Like, damn, they ain't taking no care of themselves. And Kong looking like old Braun over here. It's just crazy to watch. but he's whooping on their ass, and they kind of scurry off, and he makes Suko take him to his tribe to show him where they from. And as they're building this bond between Little Ape and Big Ape, Suko's like, I fucking hate you, I don't trust you, all this and that, and that's based off of how he was raised. But as he gets to see how Kong is, and Kong looks out for him, make sure he eats, all that type of stuff, Kong is just trying to finds a companion or companions, and hopefully he finds them. And this is where we get introduced to the big bad of the film, the Scar King. And Scar King, this elongated orangutan over here is a beast. This motherfucker moving like Eddie Gordo on Kong's ass, and this motherfucker is evil. Like, he really plotting, and so much to his lore, but I don't want to get into that. There's gonna be parts of that in the film, and as it's going on, the human characters are trying to figure out what is going on, why is there havoc going on in Hollow Earth, what are these signals and all that, and how does the character Gia, the last of her tribe that used to look after Kong, how does she play a role in this, and how everything goes on with the human characters, things of that nature, yada yada, and how can they help Kong, Godzilla, take care of business. And that's all I really want to say about the film. Again, I'll always tell y'all to check these films out. I never want to just deter y'all from it, because if you see the film, I see the film, we have something to talk about, and make keeps the world going. Now, what I want to talk about is the highlights for this film, and again, I have to talk about the cast, like the main cast, because there's not many human characters in this film that really matter. Rebecca Hall as Dr. Eileen Andrews. She's a scientist that's head of Monarch and anthropologic linguistics, so understanding the tribe's lore, how their language, things of that nature. And I love her relationship with the character Gia, played by Kylie Hato. And what's really cool about Kylie is I found out that she is actually truly deaf. So like the sign language going on, like it's not just like a part of the film, like they made it part of the film to include her. And such a young actress who was able to portray a lot of emotion while even saying it is such a skill, and I applaud her for it. It was excellent to see on film, and the way they utilize that for the rest of the film, in certain sections you'll get to see what is a disability has more weight to it in the film. Like, you'll just have to see. It's really interesting how, I don't know if they actually meant to put so much of her disability into the lore to build this world, but if it is, and I'm gonna take that assumption. I love that assumption that a film company would make that decision, or writers would make that decision to do something different for this group of people, for a group of people. And I think that's going to be a lot of reasons that a lot more deaf people will want to go see the films, because I think inclusion does matter, and seeing someone like you on film being a star, and you see how much it plays a role in that film, I think that's very interesting. So I gotta give my nod to them for those characters. Brian Tyree Henry as Bernie. He's supposed to be the comedic part of the film, and sometimes it hits, sometimes it misses, and sometimes he's just there. And I love this actor. I got to see him play Paperboy in Atlanta. I've seen him in different films, but right here, just him in this, and the previous film is just in the legendary universe. I don't know. I don't really see the appeal of this type of conspiracy theorist character in Brian, but he is knowledgeable and helps push the plot. So I gotta give him 2 golf claps for that. Next is Dan Stevens as a Trapper, former lover of Dr. Eileen, and he's a veterinarian in the film, and he's very he has his own style to him, and I think he's more playful, and I feel like his comedic timing is way better than what they got Brian doing as a Bernie. So like, but they do pair well together in some moments in the film. So definitely excellent to watch them. But all of them as a group are what drive this film. And if it wasn't for this core group, I probably would lower how I feel about this film. Um, Another highlight would be the visual effects. Kong looks great. Godzilla looks very different. This Godzilla already looks different just because of his arms look a lot more longer, so he's able to really, scrap with kaiju's as well as really grab onto them. He loves grabbing their head and just atomic blasting them through their face. So amazing to see. And then with this new design with the pink spikes on his back that are like even longer, definitely more threatening. And just like then seeing the pair of them going at it in this team up, it's definitely fun to watch. It stimulates the eyes, and then just the look of Hollow Earth as well is just really beautiful. So the visual effects really drove home. I don't know how anybody else feels, but I definitely want to give his nod for that. Sound wise, score, okay, no problems. Didn't really pay no mind to it. But definitely the sound effects for Godzilla's roar, the voice actor for Kong and Scar King. Overall, I'm gonna give this film 4 stars. Could it be better? Yes, but is it the worst Godzilla film? It's not. I really did enjoy this film. So definitely got to tip my hat to the director and the creators for this project. Like I said, to start this episode, I really do love Godzilla. I want to run back some of the films I've missed out on because, again, if this franchise has been running for God knows how long at this point, there's definitely films that I missed out on, especially like the black and white film, back when Godzilla, didn't look as clean, really looked like a guy in a suit. But these are still films that really cemented its legacy for this character, for this franchise. So it's very impressive to see how long it lasted at this point. And with these 2 films to keep that legacy going, I think they're on the right track. And these films deserve the praise they get. Any negativity towards them, it is what it is. Kaiju films are not for everyone. I get that, I understand. But for the people like me, I truly appreciate them. Now with all that being said, did y'all agree what I said about these films? How do you feel about Godzilla movies? How do you feel about -1? How do you feel about the new Empire? Please let me know in the comments below. Make sure you're following me on IG at DocsBrando25 to stay up to date. Make sure you're spreading the news about what the goal is. Make sure we get up to 500 subscribers. And appreciate y'all for listening again. This has been Rorvis Paradox, aka Docs Brando, and I'll see you for another time on Rorvis Reviews next Friday. Peace.